she saw her best friend murdered in front of her eyes. And after that, she got kidnapped. Since then, for 38 days, Romi and 238 other human beings, men, women, elderly, and children, are held by Hamas and its helpers. We have no information on her, and we don't know her condition since then. My sister has asthma and chronic sinusitis. We can only imagine how she's struggling, gasping for air, wherever she's being held underground. Can you understand the feeling of fighting to breathe? Such a basic need. She also has chronic kidney stones that cause her for countless of hospitalizations and horrible pain. Do you think anyone over there care for her pain? What can she do to help herself with all of that? I'm asking you. Nothing. She's trapped in this situation for 38 days. What can you do to help her? Everything. You have the power and the mandate to change those actions of Hamas, to help release those innocent people that got trapped in the horror movie. It is not a country against country situation. We were not in the middle of a fight or a war. They came to kill, slaughter, burn, rape, destroy. That's why, and from many other reasons, it's a humanitarian and health issue above all. Where are you when we most needed you? This is the exact time to act for these women. We all know what are the possibilities as long as those women are in Hamas' hands. We're talking about raping and sexual molesting as a terror act. Although it's a women's rights press conference, we must act for all of them. We have learned in the hard and painful way that nor gender or nationality matters to those monsters that celebrate death. This situation is an urgent matter. Every minute counts. Finally, I want to speak as a nurse. I believe in life, in the living, in taking care of one another. I want to believe again in humanity. I'm asking for your help with that. Help me believe we could all, as a nation, recover from this. Don't turn your back on our women or on us. We need you to speak their voice as loud as it can be. Act now before it's too late. Their voice could have been your voice. It could have been your sister. My sister doesn't have a price for her freedom. Does your sister have a price? I don't think so. It's on your hands. Please act now. Thank you.
We'd like to see a video right now. Can you please share a video?
من الكلاب اليهوديين هاي مسكنا واحدة وهنسيبوها أي واحد زلمة بدنا نشوف إيش بدنا نسوي فيه هاينا في الأراضي.
You know what? No words, please. My name is Kinneret Stern. What you just saw is my cousin.
It's Moran Yanai, and I'm here today talking about my deeper fear, my nightmares. My cousin Moran was brutally taken by Hamas terrorists on October 7th from the Nova Music Festival. Moran is 40 years old. She's a jewelry designer. She decided to take a new path in her life. She decided to follow her art, and she was showcased her jewelry during the Nova Festival. For her, the Nova Festival was a dream and coming true. But this dream became a nightmare for her and for all of us. This video, it implies the nightmare each woman afraid from. But this is not a horror movie. This is reality for 38 days. I'm here calling you, women all over the world, to be united. No matter where you're coming from, we all against brutal rapes and sexual abuse. It is 2023, and women all over the world must be safe and free to choose their own destiny. We did it in the past. You talked about it, Moran, with the Me Too movement. We did great, and we should do it again. We should prevent brutal violence against women and rapes. In each one of us, there's a deep fear to lose the ability to protect yourself, to protect your kids. For them, for us, this is a daily struggle. Chained in the dark cell, surrounded with those evils, those rapers. We should stop it now, all of us. Hamas has to release them immediately, immediately. This is not a war. This is a crime against humanity, against all women and mothers around the world. I'm calling you women all over the world to speak up. We have the power to make a difference. We have the strength to save the world, to make it a better place for girls and women. United Nations Women Rights Organization, where are you? Where are you? Where is your voice? Why is it not heard? Israeli woman, a woman, their rights must be equal to those of every woman in the world. Thank you.
We too. I'd like to invite Professor Ruth Halperin Kadari, head of the Rachman Center for the Advancement of Women at Bar-Ilan University, and the former member of the Vice President of the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women.
My heart goes to all the hostages and their families. I wish there were no need for us to be here today. Women have very little to say, if at all, in starting wars. But women and children are those who suffer the most from the consequences of war. And the report, which is launched here today, is a very sad reminder of this truth. And yet it was only in 2000 when, for the first time ever, the United Nations Security Council devoted a separate discussion to women and recognized the unique gendered vulnerabilities and sufferings of women as victims of war, paying special emphasis on the use of women's bodies as weapons of war throughout history, and the duty of all those involved in conflicts to provide women with special protection against such acts. Since the adoption of Security Council Resolution 1325 in 2000, the UN adopted a number of resolutions, all forming what's known as the Women, Peace and Security Framework, a great promise. For our purposes here, 1325 and all those other resolutions, they all pay special attention to conflict-related sexual violence, recognizing sexual violence as a weapon and tactic of war, noting that rape and other forms of sexual violence constitute a war crime, a crime against humanity, or even an act with respect to genocide. The 1998 Rome Statute, which established the International Criminal Court, also defines sexual crimes as war crimes and as crimes against humanity. And so, already in the morning of October 9th, a group of us, international law and women's rights professors and experts, reached out to various UN bodies, including the CEDAW Committee, the CRC, the Committee on the Rights of the Child, special mandate holders, and UN Women. We described the unspeakable brutality of the atrocities committed by Hamas, stating the obvious. These are war crimes, crimes against humanity, possibly genocide, that these very international law norms framed. And we stressed the obvious, that the hostages are defined according to international law as victims of enforced disappearances, that all the hostages are being held in contravention of international law and should be released immediately. In relation to women and children who are still being held, it is the clear duty of those very human rights bodies whose mandate is the protection of women and children to demand their immediate and unconditional release. By failing to voice this demand, they undermine their integrity and the trust in the fulfillment of their mandate. However, to our great dismay and disbelief, these human rights bodies overwhelmingly declined to condemn Hamas, ignored all the sexual crimes that were committed on October 7th by Hamas, and rarely, if ever, called for the release of the hostages. Let me be clear. I do not deny for a moment the suffering of innocent women and children in Gaza. I am concerned with the loss of life in Gaza, including the number of women and children who are victims of this armed conflict. However, at the same time, it cannot be denied that the abuse and sexual violence of women and the continued holding of hostages constitute crimes against humanity. By turning a blind eye to the October 7th massacre, to the unprecedented and premeditated extreme cruelty of the sexual violence committed by Hamas, these UN bodies not only fail us, but they undermine the very purpose for which they were established, and in fact undermine the whole international human rights system. Moreover, they are complicit in the campaign of denial launched by Hamas and its allies. They give ammunition to those who dare claim that the October 7th massacre never happened. And the worst, by failing to mention the ongoing war crime of holding hostages, they legitimize disappearance of people and the taking of hostages, not only at present, but possibly encouraging such acts in the future. For the women, children, and babies who are currently held hostage, the refusal of these human rights bodies to take a stand is a betrayal of their prime duty to respect, protect, and promote the human rights of all human beings. The silence of international human rights and women's rights community is deafening. For those of us who believed in the power of international human rights institutions and in solidarity between women, it is a particularly devastating blow. The betrayal is not only to the hostages and to the victims of sexual abuse, but to the very integrity of these institutions and of the international human rights framework at large. We call you to act now, to stand with us.
"38 days. 38 days. And nothing. 38 days. We, too, ask you to do something. And now I'd like to invite Professor Dorit Nitzan, former member and vice president of the UN Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. And that she was just here. She's going to speak again. No, I'm kidding. Dr. Shelley Aviv? Okay. I know you. Now I'd like to invite, you know what? They will never kill our spirit. So we're allowed to enjoy our breathing as we're here to combat. So I'd like to invite the head of International Law Team. Thank you. Sorry. I'd like to invite the head of International Law Team, Hostages and Missing Persons Families Forum, Dr. Shelley Aviv Ileni.
Dear families and incredible women here with me, first, my heart goes out to the families who've been forced to deal with this nightmare for the last 38 days. I owe it to them to call upon the international community, to women's rights activists, and to fellow human beings to demand the release of their loved ones, mothers, wives, sisters, young girls, infants, babies, and grandmothers held in captivity by Hamas in Gaza. I want to talk about little Abigail, a 3-year-old orphan whose parents were brutally murdered in front of her eyes. She's held hostage by the murderers of her parents. Can you grasp it? Imagine this was your daughter. Imagine this was your sister, held in captivity while we are here having this talk, scared and alone. Who's comforting her? Who sings her a lullaby? Who hugs and holds her? Once again, this orphaned 3-year-old girl is being held in captivity by the murderers of her parents. Help us bring her back home to her remaining family so she can begin the process of healing. She needs to be comforted. She needs to be loved. She's been through enough. The toll armed conflict takes on women is profound. In the midst of war, women are often the silent casualties, enduring physical and emotional traumas. Accordingly, international humanitarian law demands that women shall be the object of special respect in hostilities. While the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has always been a source of concern for women's rights, the recent taking of 90 women in captivity is a horrifying new law that the international community cannot accept. As part of the October 7th massacre, women have been subjected to rape, torture, and mutilation as means of warfare. The cruelty is beyond words, and the evidence is heartbreaking. Hamas actions targeting and attacking women constitute a war crime that cannot be tolerated. The enforced disappearance of 90 women and girls is a crime against humanity, and the world must decisively demand their immediate release. The Hostages and Missing Persons Family Forum has consistently and assertively engaged with the international community, with women's rights organizations demanding proactive action to ensure the release of all women held in Gaza by Hamas. Though we haven't received the responses we hoped for, to be honest, we do believe that the truth will eventually triumph over prepositions politics. Women's lives must be cherished, all women, Jewish women included. No woman should be held hostage by terrorists. Research and past experience raise fears that women in captivity subjected to rape and sexual violence may not be released to prevent them from sharing their stories. We are here to say that the only thing graver than atrocities already committed would be to harm these women to cover up evidence. All 90 women and girls must be returned. All of them. Now. We call upon the international community, and women especially, to take a clear and unwavering stance and to act decisively to release women held in captivity by Hamas. In face of tremendous adversity, female solidarity must become a lifeline. Even in the darkest corners of conflict, the flame of solidarity can provide a glimmer of hope and a promise of a better, more peaceful future. In securing prosperity and hope for this region, we must ensure that women and children are not treated as targets, not used as instruments of warfare. Your help is crucial. The captives and their families are relying on you. Abigail is relying on you. You need to act now. Please join us in demanding the immediate and unconditional release of these women and girls. Their freedom is not just a plea for justice, it's a call for a brighter, more compassionate future for us all. We urge you to intervene. And a few words in Hebrew, if I may. אנחנו איתכן וחושבות עליכן, תהיו חזקות, תחזיקו מעמד. אם אתם שם ליד ילדה קטנה שלא נמצאת עם ההורים שלה, תחבקו אותה ותנו לה אהבה. אנחנו לא נשקוט עד שלא תחזורנה כולכן.
And now I'd like to invite Professor Dorit Nitzan, former head of the Master's Program in Emergency Medicine of Ben-Gurion University. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Dorit Nitzan, and I was the Regional Emergency Director for WHO in the European region before I came back to Israel. And my colleague here, my friend, Dr. Michel Tiren, who is representing WHO in Israel, is here with us. So, yes, it's 38 days that we are really without any information, and we do not know what can be done and how to do it. We are absolutely lost. 38 days. And I really want to say something. I would say it in two languages. I accuse each and every woman in leadership position, each and every leader of the world, for not moving forward, for not coming forward and sending a clear message. This is a crime. These women are all should be home. We cannot tolerate the fact that every day that passes is a day of captivity. We cannot let it go, and because each and every of these women, and we heard just few of them, each and every one of those women is one of us, one of the global us. They were going through their paths of lives. We heard that until they were woken up brutally into hell by terrorists who know no mercy. Each of these women, as we heard today, has her health history. Some of it is just normal part of their lives, and some have very specific health needs. This is a public health emergency. Emergencies disproportionately impact women, girls, and gender and sexual minorities. It is well known, well researched, and well documented that women and girls suffer more during captivity. The abduction of civil populations, including women, by Hamas is added to a shameful long list of similar men, yes, man-made terroristic atrocities. Let me mention a few. The Islamic State terrorists carried out several attacks on villages in northern Mozambique and abducted women. ISIS has terrorized Rohingya women as well as women in Nigeria and neighboring countries for more than a decade. According to Amnesty International, at least 2,000 women and girls have been abducted by ISIS since the start of 2014. Some of them have managed to escape or have been rescued, for example, by the Nigerian military, but many are still missing in captivity. In Sudan, women and girls are being abducted, chained, and held in inhumane, degrading, slave-like conditions. The ISIS captured Yazidi women in 2014 onward. I was there, I saw it. The women were tortured and subjected to sexual violence as well as religious conversion. We have learned that women and girls are more vulnerable, more at risk, and need special efforts to defend, protect, and care for them. Without specific attention and focus, women and girls in captivity are at risk of being the core of human atrocities, including gender-based violence, what we call GBV. The UN Population Fund Executive Director coined the term gender threat. Please, now it's time for you, madam, to stand for all of us women worldwide. Women who have experienced rape are at risk of physical injury, sexually transmitted infections, severe trauma to their internal organs, and unwanted pregnancies, to name just a few, because I don't want to really make such bad impression on you all. In addition, they do have mental implications, including PTSD. Remember, the terrorists we heard, they came well prepared with a concrete plan to rape, torture, harm, and terrorize. To add to it, we have heard today a significant number of the 7th of October abducted women and girls are living with complex medical conditions, like many of us. Some have breast cancer, hypertension, atrial fibrillation, neurosarcoidosis, diabetes mellitus, ischemic heart disease, heart failure, prosthetic heart valve, as well as mental health problem, anxiety, depression, anorexia nervosa. We heard about asthma, and so on and so forth. These medical conditions necessitate specialized medical care, specialized treatment, special day-to-day and care and medications, also by specialized physicians and caring nurses, denying them access to treatment and care for the pre-existing medical conditions, as well as for, as we heard, injuries such as gunshot wounds or limb amputations sustaining during their violent abductions, constitutes a form of torture that goes against all principles of humanity and international conventions and puts their lives at risk. We know that separating mothers from their children poses unique risks and suffering to both the mothers and children. This thought is just unbearable. In cases where mothers were found together with their kids, they prioritize their children's health and risk their own lives and survival for their kids. They provide the children with a bit of food they receive and suffer when they witness what their children are going through. Our hearts goes to our mothers in this group. I'll just mention Shiri Bibas, a mother of a 9-month-old baby and a 4-year-old toddler. We know also that, and as we heard, adolescent girls need support, guidance, love, and care. They need to be home. Adolescence is not time for such atrocities. There is no time for it at any age. And where are the women and children now? Where do they spend their days and night? What happened to the elderly among them? From past experience of women in captivity, we learned that they do not have access to clean and safe water, sanitation, and hygiene. It results in spread of infectious diseases, complications, and immense suffering. There are problems with underweight, with vitamin deficiencies. But what I want to say is that we are a special country here. We are special because we have the families and we have the community. And we have learned from the past experiences that many of them, of these women, when received well and cared well, show strength. They are okay. Israel, all of us, are waiting to hug and care for them as soon as they return. The health system and health professionals, and we have here Professor Haggai Levin, who is working very hard, are standing ready. They are loved and will be looked after and cared for by the health system here, but not only, by their families and the whole society. Gender, mental, social, physical, and cultural dimensions are already included in their recovery program. We are grateful to the amazing leaders among the women in the world that we know that are already working so hard. We are sending a real message. The homes are waiting for them. We are ready to receive them. Just let our people go. We too ask you to protect, defend, and free our women, children, and all. We too are together. Thank you.
To all of the families, I was lucky enough to meet some of you the other day, and I'm so horrified at the experiences that your family members had to go through and are still going through today. And I join you in calling on the international community to end this humanitarian disaster, multinational humanitarian disaster, and to protect women, children, the elderly, all the people, innocent people who are suffering right now. And I am with you, I cry with you, I hold you in my thoughts, and I join you in this cry to bring them back now.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank, first of all, the families that are here to share their story day and night for 38 days, over and over again. Hopefully this time, Worldwide Women Organization will stand up and speak. Me too, I hope, means we too. We too are asking you to do something. We too are asking you to act. And now, we always ask ourselves, how can we help? Each and every one of you that is here can write, can post, can condemn to each and every women organization in the world, from Me Too to the UN Women Organization. In fact, we have the director of the UN Women Organization, Sima Bahaus, that is a leading woman that can definitely hear us and take a stand to release all women and children from captivity right now. It is our human rights. All of us, all of our women belong to we too. I want to also thank the media that is here, that are sharing our story to the world. We thank you, and we hope you will report when we celebrate their safe return of all women and children back where they belong, home. Thank you.